It's backwards.
Oops, not again. You did that last week.
I did. You know what? It's because it's a backwards ass episode. That's why.
Very true. Well,
Yeah.
welcome to the Cup, the Currently Unnamed Podcast, where we put the real and the tea in reality, and you can always come to us first to quench your thirst. I'm David Healy. I don't have a cute intro, but I do have a cute shirt. Today, I decided, might as well wear her shirt. It is Miss Vivi the Force.
Oh,
Ooh.
thinking I didn't know you had a VV
I
shirt.
do. I gotta have my Team David shirts,
Come on,
and I
Vivi.
do love Vivi. Vivi is one of the only drag artists ever that I bought their shirt before the season even started because I was that confident that I would like her, and I did. So, but I'm just drinking some water right now. Um, I I'm not drinking it out of this, but I do have a cup mug. Yes, and you can also get a cup mug if you'd like one at lanagcreations.etsy.com. We do ship internationally, so there's no excuses.
Well, there might be a couple if your country's on fire, underwater, or under siege. In that case, we understand. But if it's not, get on it. Anyway, hi. My name is Jack. I am your resident live experience designer of the panel, and the Boulets really did give us a good scare this week. They knew the one thing that could horrify a Dragula fan base was an episode that was a bad episode of Drag Race. Anyway, I'm just drinking water.
And what is happening, everybody? It is the one and only Eve the Bunny, Chicago drag artiste, icon, maven, queen, etc., 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 and also Queen of Ivy Park. Today, I'm repping a cute little crop hoodie from the Peloton drop that Ivy Park did a collab with. And I've paired it with a nice little green beret because she's what? International. Yes. And what time is it? Fall time. Yes. Come on. Bottom autumn. Let's go. So I'm in my olive greens and my browns and my reds and all of those kind of fun colors. So you will be seeing me rocking some of that on the next coming up videos. I am drinking always Coca-Cola from the gas station. So period. And I don't own a car, so we call those convenience stores. Ow. This episode was a lot. Within the first 5 minutes, I was pretty much like the Steve Carell screaming no in the office meme. Like, no! No! Like the entire first 5 minutes. It was set up to be that way. I had to take a break from watching the episode. I had to stop watching the episode for about a full 10 minutes because I went yelling. Like, I was so mad at a lot of people. And we will get into those people later, like later, because I'm not the only person that feels that I smell a stunt. I smell a stunt. And I'm just trying to say right now, it better be a good one because this is annoying. The way this played out was so annoying. So this better be worth it. If it is, this could be one of the best flips in all of this could be what sets season 6 apart from the other seasons. But we need to see. But yeah, this episode was a doozy and a half. And I don't like doozies.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like immediately after the episode ended, I went on record saying, I think this might be my least favorite episode of Dragula ever. It felt like they went back to the Extermination challenge from episode 1, found the sharks, pulled up the sharks, and then jumped over them because I felt like this was the episode where Dragula just really jumped the shark and it didn't work for me. And there's a lot of things that I had issues with, and we will get into it. But first, while you're here, please do us a favor. Please subscribe to our channel. We're trying to get up those subscriber counts and viewership. So please like this video, share this video, comment. I love reading comments. So please leave comments, and hey, I'll respond to them probably. So, but yeah, I think we're ready to get into it. Did you have any overall thoughts before we jump in, Jack?
Um, I'll distribute them throughout the entire thing,
Mhm.
but I 100% agree with you that after this episode, I went, "Oh, okay, that's an episode. What the fuck?" Genuinely, I agree with you that I think this is the worst episode of Dragula we have ever seen, and they made so many choices. So many.
I have never yelled at a show like this.
And what's funny is I know Eve was mad at the thing I was least mad at.
I was mad about like the beginning and the
Yeah.
end made me mad, and then the middle was not anything to be desired. So
Yeah.
I was like, "What was this? Was this our extermination challenge, bitch? Because I'm
Maybe.
about to lose. I'm about
They
to
exterminated
Yeah.
some viewership. No. So we're back in the long ass boudoir, the lab, and we see people coming in, but different than they usually do. We see people coming in as pairs. First is Asia and Pi, and it gives them some time to talk about their alliance, reaffirm things, maybe potentially add more people. They discuss that. Asia suggests Pi, Asia suggests Auntie, and then Pi immediately is like, "No, I think we need to target Pi." And then we get a confessional of Asia saying, "I want Auntie out of the competition." I'm like, man, that switched quickly, girl. You wanted to bring her into the alliance, and then immediately you want to kick her out of the show. I'm like, whoa. I
bad
got
decision.
whiplash from how quickly she changed.
Bad decision number one. That was the dumbest thing. That made me so mad because it's like, why would it not make sense for the front runners to all team up and get rid of everybody else? Why would that not make sense? I was like, are you serious right now? It was I was just like, wow, okay, so that's what we're doing. And Pi was all like, well, it's because we both do the same thing. And I was like, yeah, but also at the end of the day, it's not like it's going to be one of those things where the only people that can make it down to the end, to the finale, is like people that all do one specific different thing. That happens, but that's not the way that it's set in stone. So, like, I feel like it would have made more sense to work with that person that you have a lot with, especially because even from an alliance standpoint, if they keep on talking about playing a game, that would make the most sense anyway. Just the same way that it wouldn't seem that believable that Pi would be in alliance with Asia because of their friction or whatever. They'd assume Pi and Auntie aren't in one because they basically do the same drag. So it's like, why are you not, like you guys said, you started this out saying you wanted to play a game. Y'all are playing it horribly. Y'all are losing bad. I don't know how y'all are winning and losing at the same time, but losing is the new winning.
Yeah. We see more people come in. For next is Auntie and Jaharia, and then we see Yuri and Aurora, and everybody's like, "What's happening? Why are we coming in like this?" I didn't believe them. I'm sorry. I think they all knew exactly what happened,
Yeah,
especially since they all had conversations. They all heard Majesty say, "Oh, I can go." Like she was throwing in the towel while they were all there. So then Vivi comes in and they're like, "Wait, what happened? I guess Gray's gone and I guess Majesty's coming in next." I'm like, "Are you serious?"
That would make sense.
Look, they have to just act for the cameras for like 2 seconds.
They're very
Look, we already saw the questionable acting later on in this episode. Did you really expect anything here?
Right.
horrible.
The acting continues. We see Gray come in, and everybody's like, "What the heck? What? Where's Majesty? When's Majesty coming in? Did nobody go? Okay, we get it. We get it. You're making a TV show. Insult the viewers.
Then just the producer walks in with coffee and is just like, here's the note. I'm fucking off.
Like, are you serious?
Like,
It wasn't left there.
Just a
They didn't know
note.
how to deal with it.
They couldn't have Israel.
They said they couldn't have him give up. Some girl said, hold on, she did this. Here y'all. And just left. I was like, this is how y'all are you serious with me right now?
I wonder if she got paid for her on-screen appearance.
I was like, hell is hot. Hell is so hot. Hell is so hot. I was like, and then
they read the note.
And it's essentially just Majesty being like, look, I wanted to come into this competition to prove myself, but I don't want to fight against myself. I'm leaving. Oh, okay. And funnily enough, we get a moment that is interesting of the cast being like, yeah, kind of no shit, and also slightly blaming each other. I honestly couldn't tell how genuine it was of like, Auntie got a little bit of heat of like, you kind of called her a narcissist. Everyone was kind of like, no one could really trust her. It was strange. And I mean,
hella strange.
We kind of find out about it a bit later with the critiques for some reason. And like
the Boulets even did it. Well, they really didn't let her be a new person, and And so maybe she was like, "Well, I don't want to fight." I'm like, so this is what you're giving me. Tell me this is a stunt. Tell me this is a stunt. Because the way I'm conspiracy theory bunny for real. Like, I'm always conspiracy theory about production and producing things on every reality show I ever watch. I have already heard whispers. People are now thinking about it and saying it and mentioning it on Twitter, and it has been something that has been in the back of my mind since the beginning of this episode. If y'all don't come back next week and tell us that Majesty was a mole, I'm a flip. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm a flip because it's being set up that way. They've highlighted Majesty on purpose almost every single episode leading up to her having this emotional break when she needs to leave. It's like you knew that's what she was going to do when she was there. I'm like, this seems too planned. You even had her insert little dramatic plot points to push the story along, like her telling Aurora about someone doing the whole rumor thing about her. That only lasted for one episode. You know what I mean? Like, it's just little things where I'm like, and then also someone else noticed, from their photos from last episode that they did, like when they do the promo photos of like everyone's looks from the runway, she was a detective or whatever, and hers, she had a newspaper opened up and it said on the front, "Is there a spy among us?" And I'm like, y'all better tell me she was a mole. Something about this. I'm like, if this all happened because she emotionally just couldn't be there, whatever. I understand that. I respect that. It annoys the hell out of me. I will be honest about it, but I do respect it. But if this is all a setup for a riggery or a trickery, I'd give it to the Boulets. That would make the whole season. I'm not even going to lie. It's something about this does not all seem copacetic. Like, it doesn't really seem set up like this is all natural. I feel like I see someone behind the curtain, Wizard. I feel like I see you. That's all I gotta say.
You know, I see I see your bunny ears, and they're made out of tinfoil. I see what you're saying, but I'm not personally buying it. What I think is that Majesty was doing a lot of self-producing. I think she came in here like, oh, I know what it's like to be on TV. Let me lead conversations. Let me start things that will be on TV. And then we slowly saw her crumble. And I think the editors presented little Easter eggs for us based on knowing how everything would play out. So there's a lot of things that make sense in hindsight with her and with stuff we were shown from her. But I do think she actually just couldn't handle the situation emotionally and just opted to leave. And hey, I respect that. And you know what I do respect? This is the only time I'm going to give props to production in the Boulets for this episode. It comes up later on, but when we see the Boulets talking about Majesty's decision to quit, they said they respect that and they always want to see people put their mental health first. And I don't think every host feels that way.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, you know,
I mean, I actually kind of agree with you that it feels weird. Like this whole, and we'll talk about it because this whole episode very much feels like it's filler because of what happens in it. But it just, something about this whole elimination, how Majesty's been acting the whole season, it's just strange. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and
almost every time there has been a dramatic moment between two different people, Majesty has started it.
yeah, I mean, Majesty
Like,
multiple times has just brought up people's drama.
like in the Cauldron. Hey, Asia, didn't you tell us that Pi told you something earlier? Like what? Like it's just like little things of her doing it. I'm just kind of like.
But she's the only one who's been on, well, I guess Yuri also, but she's been in this specific situation. So I think, doesn't it make sense that she might know to do that just from being there in the past?
It makes her bipolar.
But then at the same time, she can't then complain about why don't these people trust me? Because you are the one directly starting drama. So you can't start drama and then complain that nobody trusts you because you're starting drama.
It's
that
like
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to make yourself the main character of the episode, and then you're like, but why is everyone looking at me? I don't understand. I'm like, girl. Like, just like, I mean, I feel like the thing that Auntie said has happened a couple of times where Majesty will circumvent certain comments or things or whatever around to somehow being about her. And I'm just kind of like, there seems like there's some acting afoot. That's what it seems like to me. It does seem like it's some acting. I just don't 150% feel genuinely about that was actually, I mean, if this is like the mole Dragula, I'm going to lose it. If they bring her back by the last episode and she's going to be like, oh yeah, by the way, I was spying on all of you and we see behind the scenes, but I will lose any little piece of my mind that I have. That's all I have to say. All I have to say. And I'm calling it here right now. So if it does happen, my teams.
Okay.
I do also want to say, there was something in my mind that's been kind of going the whole season of like, besides that first runway, Majesty has really done nothing in terms of quality. They've been very safe the whole time. And for someone to return and be middle of the road and basically be able to be picked off later by a front runner looks really bad on why they brought them back. So I think maybe it was that as well of like, wait, why am I not in the front? Why am I not like in control? Yeah, Majesty's never been in the bottom, but
right.
They could have been multiple times.
I feel like that there are plot points that were set up in the beginning of the first episode. They kind of pushed the whole episode along. like the Aurora versus Scylla, and there being 3 Chicago girls, and you know what I mean, stuff like that. So I think one of those main plot points was that Majesty came back, and so it would make sense that, okay, we're going to let Majesty be in the top, because for me, to be honest with you, when it came to the first episode, I don't think Majesty should have been in the top. Majesty's first look was safe for me. And so for Majesty to come back and them automatically to go, well, let's talk about Majesty being back. But of course, because of course we brought him back. We're so glad you're doing this, and you have this new persona, and you're doing this so strong, and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then he just kind of floats in the background for the entire rest of the season. It's like, you want us to know he's there, but
yeah.
Even with his critiques, I'm surprised his critiques aren't anything. Where his critiques have never been anything, even now, that have been about like, you were blowing us away in season 2, or or we like what you're doing, do more of it. It's, I don't know. It's just, she's very like,
what critiques?
Right.
She didn't get many.
Yeah, no, she's been safe every single episode except episode 1.
So yeah, it's crazy. It's like she hasn't had to get, I don't know, scrutinized.
Just
well, I think we should move on, because we do have a lot of other things to talk about. But we do well, yeah, a little bit. We do get our video from the Boulets, and they let everybody know. And I wrote it down wrong in my notes, and I'm probably going to say it wrong. But they let them know that they're going to be doing Dragula the musical, not rusical, like my notes say. Yes.
Although calling it a rusical is basically what they did. Like,
much.
not gonna lie, this whole concept is basically their take on a drag race rusical. That's all that's going on.
I actually would agree more with the first way that you presented it, that this is just a variation on the Monsters of Rock challenge, because calling this a rusical or musical in any way was so ridiculously generous, because there would
group challenge.
there would be prop pieces, there would be set pieces, there would be an actual storyline. It wouldn't be, we're going to have you perform a song and then we're going to go to you and have you perform a song. That's not a musical at all. That's why when they did this, I was like, wait, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do definitely see that, and I mean, unfortunately, I think this is probably the replacement for Monsters of Rock this season. All of the previous ones have been episode 3 or 4. All of them have broken the cast up into 2 groups of 4, or generally around that size. All of them have given them a track to work with. All of them have given them a song that they have to sing live. This was, unfortunately, the Monsters of Rock season. Monsters of Rock like challenge of the season.
It was the Monsters of Broadway challenge.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Broadway swallowed them whole.
Well, I liked it on paper. I thought it was a good idea, especially because we get to see Alaska back on the show. And I'm really proud of Alaska for putting this together. I know she's had a lot of success with Drag the Musical. She has Liza Minnelli as a producer for the new one, which is wild. But they do tell everybody that they'll need to split into 2 groups of 4. So everybody does that. We quickly get our groups. We have the Rats, which are going to be Gray, Auntie, Vivi, and Yuri. And then the Snakes are going to be Pi, Asia, Aurora, and Jaharia. Was there a group that seemed like the front runner just based on the pairings to you all?
Yes.
The one that was?
I see what you're saying, but I felt like, I don't know why, immediately when I found out what the challenge was, I felt like, oh, especially knowing the prize. The prize was that they get to have a one-night only appearance in Drag the Musical in New York. I felt like it was catered to anti-heroine. I felt like she was somebody that they could really see doing well, and that would be able to handle being on off Broadway and just doing really well with it. So my mind immediately went to, oh, this is Auntie's to lose.
Which, I mean, it kind of was.
It kind of was. Mm-hmm.
I will be honest. I mean, based on the concept of this challenge, this felt something that was up Yuri's alley because, I mean, this is kind of, as I kind of mentioned, it feels drag racy and being able to sing live and do all this choreo. That's something that Yuri was okay with on their season. Auntie felt good, but at the same time, you look at Jahoria, who's a full choreographer at that point, and she's gonna kill it no matter what. And later on, when we hear people sing, it's like, oh, okay, no, we know who wins. This is not a question.
Yeah. It was a setup that mentally made me go, okay, I can see a top 2 and a bottom 2 out of each of these groups already. I feel like this is really going to depend on, one, of course, how they do, but 2, how they're judged. I was like, if they're judged in groups, somebody's going to sneak away with making it through that possibly could be in the bottom. If they're judged individually, then it's smash with anti-heroin as lead. So I was like, we will see how the actual show goes. Like when I saw like mini rehearsals and stuff, I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is interesting. This is interesting. This is interesting. I still feel like I could see who my tops and bottoms are out of the groups, and I still felt like, especially after rehearsals, I could see generally who I thought was going to be in the top and the bottom anyway. So I was like, okay, I'm interested to see like the material and the actual like jeu et le jeu, because like that's kind of what happens with Drag Race is when they do musicals and stuff like that, they really only show like them maybe going over 1 or 2 songs and them doing like a little blocking in choreo, and then other than that we don't know the whole full story. So we're sitting here watching like a full story for like 5 minutes, like, oh, okay, cool. That's not how this went. We kind of pretty much saw every damn thing.
Mm-hmm. It kind of felt like a slow march to Vivi's elimination, like from the get-go. Because we see, first of all, they start doing their own kind of choreography, but then an actual choreographer comes in to work with them. And then we get this weird montage. They're loving montages this season for some reason, but it's just kind of a back and forth between both groups working with the choreographer and both groups working with Alaska, especially with the vocal aspect. And it's at this point that we really start to realize, oh, Vivi doesn't know anything about like how to keep up with the time when singing. And Alaska was like, be sure to not rush the music. And this is when we got a cute little confessional from Vivi where she says, timing is what? And an object flies by her. And she says, everything, and lifts her hands to catch it. I actually thought this was a really good episode for Vivi, her personality, because her personality's been kind of in the background, but she had like several little moments where she had like funny lines. And so I'm glad she at least got that on her way out, because spoiler, like I said, this was a march to Vivi leaving. So
yeah.
Was there anything that stood out to you all during the rehearsals?
Well, I'll say this, and this is not to gloat, but this is to be blunt about the situation. I do know Aurora Gosmick personally. She's a friend of mine. She's my sister. She can't dance worth a lick. That's not her zhuzh in drag whatsoever anyway. So when I saw that it was this kind of a challenge, they had choreography and stuff, I said, oh, we'll see. Well, sister, what are you going to be doing? What's going to happen? And I saw them lifting her up in the air and stuff. And child, there was like a board with legs. I said, oh, baby girl. What happened? Like, do you need to breathe into the paper bag? Because you're looking a little stiff, sister. But then at the same time, you flip over to the next group and then you see Vivi, who honestly, one of my biggest pet peeves. I don't know why. It just irks the crap out of me is people that can't keep timing or like can't like stay on beat. I hate that so bad. I have no idea why. Because it makes me so mentally upset and frustrated as like, how can you not count like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3? Like it's a repetitive, it's the same one thing repeated over and over again. How is that hard? How is snapping on beat hard? I don't. You are a whole grown person.
Or like groups clapping at like a concert. How
That
they're
does
always
God.
that does drag to music. Usually, you have a listen to you. The songs you perform have a chorus that repeats. How can you? What sense does this make to me? I don't. That team had like no spice, no seasoning at all. They were so bland. Auntie being the spiciest one of that whole group was scary because one of them had an accent. I'm like, what?
We might disagree on some things because I didn't think they were all bad.
Well, I just think, yeah, I think that I think at the point when it came to, I guess they're keeping up with each other's choreo and stuff, nobody in there was trying to bust no moves at all. It was a lot of stick figures.
And I'm okay with people kind of knowing their lanes. Like I don't need to see dancing because we don't always see dancing on like Broadway shows. Like as long as you're doing characterization, I think you can still pull it off. Personally.
True, I get that. It's just if dancing wasn't a part of it, then they wouldn't have gave them a choreographer.
Yeah. But we see everybody get back to the lab and they're discussing how things went. And Vivi says they all lip sync for a reason, which was another cute line from Vivi. And then they're talking about their contributions. We hear a little bit about Jaharia working on the choreography, Pi kind of working on like keeping everybody in control in their group. Gray made noses for everybody. But yeah, they talk about their color schemes too. We have kind of like the greens for the snake team and black and red for the rat team. And really, I was surprised by how quickly we found out that it is time to go to the floor show because we start hearing the music go off. And where is that music?
There wasn't enough to do.
No, there really wasn't.
Yeah.
Nothing else to do, honey. Majesty wasn't there to make
Attention competitors.
Gotta push the story
Attention
along, girl.
competitors. The floor show is about to begin.
Girl, that wore me out. I can't believe she just left. That makes me so mad. It has to be something behind it because I'm like so mad.
Okay, let's get into the floor show. Here we go. We have Alaska there as a guest. And oh my gosh, his name is Darren
Stein.
Darren Stein. The only person to be on every season of Dragula as a guest. So
when they said that and he's executive producer. When they said that, I was automatically like, oh, it's Darren. I was like, oh, I know who it is. I was like, it's the very first judge that's ever been on Dragula.
Exactly.
I like his look though with this faux hawk and like the graphic liner he had and everything. I was like, all right, Darren got some little makeup on. They kind of hooked him up. Painted by Raven. Come on.
And once again, I'm not crazy about what the boulets are wearing. There's something about the crotch area that just doesn't look right to me. Like it's not sitting right on their lap, you know? And is it just me? Like that's the only part that like really takes me out of it.
It's fine. It's also because of the fact that they're not padded. So you can just see these wrinkly old man kneecaps that don't even match the color of their skin. Like, it's just like, is this like one of those, is this like, so since we're doing the Rusical, like RuPaul, is this what y'all doing too? Can this rip off so you can put some pajamas on and just sit down behind the desk? Because that's what it's making me think. It's like, oh, this is comfortable. Like, we're finna be chilling here for a minute. But to be honest with you, I'm not usually crazy about anything the Boulets wear. They're not fashion girls. We don't say that they are. I don't say that they are.
It's mostly mid. But I did like one of their looks from a couple of weeks ago. The one with all the like red lines going down. I thought
was that the one that like went down into the train on the floor?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
that one was really cool.
That one I did like. Most of the time, I'm just like, When is the
they're not.
montage going to be over so we can get to that?
They don't need to be super fabulous. All they need to do is be kind of spooky, and that's all they fucking need.
Period.
I did like how they said to Alaska, "Thank you for trusting us with your baby." And Alaska's like, "Of course, you can eat my baby."
You can eat my baby. I was like, I love it.
Okay, so let's get into the first group we saw, and these slides are out of order, so let me quickly skip past. Boop, there we go. So the first group that we saw was the rats. What are they called? House of Rats? The House of Rats.
Yes.
Come on, Rat House.
The Rat House, yes.
So I don't have a whole lot of thoughts. I will just say pretty much immediately, I was like, oh, okay. I don't need a musical on Dragula because I don't think anybody did particularly well, and that goes for both groups. Yuri comes out, did not like her voice pretty much immediately. I thought she was doing well with the acting part, but it was just the voice I couldn't get past. And then we go from Yuri to Vivi, and Vivi is rushing the song like I did not think it was going to be that bad. It was worse than I expected.
It was horribly bad to the point where I'm like, could you not hear that you weren't on time? Like, because they had like a backing track that was playing behind them. Like, you could hear it echoing behind Vivi. And I'm just kind of like, girls, like, I'm confused. And I feel like, I wonder with it, I feel like, because some people do that, maybe it was a nerve thing. Maybe she just got nervous and so she just rushed. But I'm just kind of like, you can't act like this is like, you can't actively hear that you are off, like, boots, girl. Like, I was like, my God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad, really off key. I also want to say, why the fuck was there no auto tuning? Like, you had time. This whole challenge, there's a lot of issues with how it sounds, and like, yeah, no, most of these people don't sing because they're drag monsters. Most of them have never wanted to do that. So to not give them any sort of extra benefit or grace during this challenge is really weird, especially when Drag Race just does that anyway, even if some of them are already singers. And also during Drag Race, they just let them lip sync. You had a track that had backing vocals. Just let them lip sync. You don't have to sing.
Yeah.
Also something that annoyed me, and it is only because it is like, it was something that kind of threw me off a little bit when I really realized it. But I don't know if you noticed or not, but Vivi had earrings on her real ears, but then she had rat ears in front of them. I was like, why do you not have earrings on your rat ears? Because I think she has like a little hoop on one of the rat ears. I was like, why are you wearing regular earrings with a whole different set of ears in front of them? Like, I was like, that's so weird. Why you do that, girl?
But after Vivi, we have, so she completely sabotaged Auntie, who went right after her. No, that's not what happened. The person who went right after Vivi was Gray, and Gray did just fine. I actually thought Gray did the best with creating a character out of everybody, of all 8. Put on a character voice, which actually seems to work on a lot of Broadway shows. Like, if you can't sing, give us a character voice. So I thought Gray did well with that. And then we get into Auntie, who was not sabotaged by Vivi. Let me reiterate that. Stop making excuses for her. Auntie came in and she forgot her words. She mumbled through it. Luckily for her, her next line was, "I'm old," which really did work. Like, somehow it was like, okay, well, I'll forgive you since you're old. I do think Auntie did as well as she could have, considering she forgot the words. So I don't know. I was a little conflicted on everything. But for me, I thought Gray was definitely the best of this group.
So actually, order-wise, it was Yuri, Gray, and then Vivi, and then...
I just rewatched it. It was great after Vivi.
Auntie literally set up and said that I actually literally set up and said that Vivi went right into her. They both said it. They said
Watch it back.
Said it.
Watch it back, and you will see. Because
I have to rewatch it
because I was expecting that, because I wanted to rewatch. I watched it last night, and then I wanted to rewatch, so I had a fresh opinion before we went to record. And then when Gray started singing right after Vivi, I was like, "Wait, what?" They told us during the judging that Auntie went after Vivi, but she did not. So, yeah, I thought that was wild. I don't know. Any thoughts on other people in the group?
I will say this, and this is something that I agree with, and the Boulets agree with me as well. You did not agree with me for a minute, and so it made me be like, kind of, okay, sure, if that's how you want to be, friend. But I'm glad the Boulets agreed with me. I was very, very happy with Gray's makeup. Especially because this actually gave me drag. And they complimented him on it as well and said this is the most drag of makeup that we've seen for you. I was like, thank you. I was like, this is what I wanted to see a little bit more of from them that didn't, because if it would have honestly been I feel like signature quintessential Gray would have just wore a rat prosthetic over their face. I don't think they would have even done makeup. You know what I mean? To that extent.
For sure.
So I do like the fact that we are getting to see that from him, because it does justify. It would be like an organic kind of thing if we only saw him do very similar concept and style of aesthetic throughout the entire competition, and they just kind of let them get away with it. So I like the fact that they actually did change it up, and it looked good. So I was like, okay, cool. I can now justify you staying in here and continuing to doing what you need to do, because I was like, I do get how that lane of costumed entertainer or scare actor or whatever can easily mesh with drag around Halloween, because hell, that's kind of what we're doing. But this isn't that type of a competition. This isn't Face Off. You know what I mean? It'd be different if it was like that. But that's that this episode for me gave me more of being okay, Gray, I want to see you inject even more of this into what you do, because I feel like that if I could have seen more of these drag type aesthetic looks paired with his costuming and stuff like that, he'd bodying everybody. You know what I mean? So it's just I was happy I got to see that in this episode.
I agree in that I like that Gray is listening and taking advice, but I still like the old Gray. So sorry, go on, Jack.
I do want to check you on one thing. So the order for this song was Vivi, Yuri, then Vivi, then Gray, then a group chorus, and then Auntie. So there is a distinction.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a distinction where then Auntie can say, they all messed me up, because it's everyone being fast on the chorus.
But where
going into yes.
Okay.
Because I think what happened was I was paying attention to how they were all blocked, and I think that's what happened is Vivi was kind of up left of her or whatever, because Auntie kind of ran around her to come to the front to give her line. So I feel like their movement and stuff like that had threw her off, and that's why that makes sense. I was for some reason I will feel like when they highlighted the flashback, they showed specifically Vivi in front of Auntie being off key, and so that, or being off tempo or timing, to try to justify this whole narrative. We think that you might be the reason why you could have been one of the low ones. But also at the same time, in the back of my mind, I knew they weren't going to do that. I knew that if they were picking the bottom people, they weren't going to put Auntie at the bottom for that. They weren't.
I'm just going to get into it. I was going to save it for later. It just was really off-putting to me, because it felt like they could not trust Auntie to sink or swim on her own. The fact is, Auntie screwed up. She was not great in this challenge, And they had to, like, they actively were blaming another person for her being bad in the challenge. And I was like, this is lame. Like, she's been doing so well. And we can acknowledge her doing well, but we can also acknowledge when she screws up. It just was really off-putting to me how they just tried to blame it all on Vivi.
But they do that. Judges do that. They do that almost every season with somebody, where they let somebody get away damn near with murder on that stage because they like them that much, or because they think they see them being this kind of, so on and so forth. Drax said it last season. Drax, like, I've had a bad habit of, like, letting certain things go when it comes to certain people because of the fact that I like them so much. And she was like, I can't do that anymore. And I'm like, you have done that a good couple times.
Mm-hmm.
But we're sitting here like, you can kind of tell me who her favorites end up being. And we're like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
James was one of those people.
True.
James got away with murder in season 2. Oh, my God.
I think if anybody was going to have the Vivi of it all as an excuse for doing poorly, it would have been Gray, based on going directly after Vivi in the solo part.
But also at the same time, I feel like that because 9 times out of 10, the way things were set up last episode, Vivi, if the whole match thing would not have happened, which I feel like I said, is a plot production push, Vivi, I felt like would have went home last week anyway.
Yes,
so
100%.
Seeing already that she was optically the worst one in this group, it was already easy to dogpile on her. It just played out that way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I could easily see why they would try to pin it on Vivi instead of Gray, because it just makes sense for the episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you said, part of the slow march that she said.
This episode, I think, it definitely felt like, yeah, Auntie screwed up. We have to decide a second person. Can't be Gray because they kind of nailed it. Yuri was fine. Vivi fucked up. Yeah, no, get Vivi out. We can't lose Auntie here.
Also, mindset, I was like, okay, this is, like I said, this is what things are going to come down to. It's either going to be a team win over a team win, or it's going to be individual, or they're going to pick or it'll be a team win and a winner, and they'll pick the individual two to, like, do the bottom or whatever. And I was like, so bottom 2 right now is Auntie and Vivi, unless somebody is just horrible in the other group, and somebody else just blows it out of the water. Because I mean, even out of this group, I was like, this makes me feel like it's going to get judged as a team, because none of those people did so amazingly well that I feel like they would be the one winner out of the entire 8 people that were left. It gave Yuri and Gray were the top 2, Auntie and Vivi were the bottom 2. And I was like, if the other team kind of falls into that format too, it really looks like it's going to be a team win, and that's how things will be decided. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing for some people. It was a good thing for one person, I will say that.
Oh, yeah.
Shall we get into the other team now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's do it. Okay. So the snakes, I actually don't remember the order everybody went in. I will just say my quick thoughts. There were 2 people that faded a bit in this challenge for me. I don't really remember much of what they did, even watching it twice. And that is Aurora and Asia, which is good. Like, they didn't stand out for negative or positive things, because the other 2 people, one stood out positively for me and one stood out negatively for me. The person who stood out negatively, and the only person to make me type yikes as soon as they started singing to my friend, was Pi, who I thought had the worst singing of all 8 of them. I thought it was actively really bad singing. They were going hard. I will respect them for effort and really pushing themselves, but it hurt my ears because it was so bad how it sounded. But I do think Jaharia did really well. The singing was good. The choreography that she led was good. The tricks she was doing, it was good. Like, for me, I think Jaharia was the clear winner of this group.
I hard disagree on Pi.
Yeah.
I think Pi was actually the best singer and reminded me the most of a Broadway show.
Yeah.
And in my mind, it was Pi and Jaharia standing out, and Aurora and Asia fading into the back, not necessarily doing anything wrong besides maybe not having the greatest singing voice, but not doing anything wrong. And I mean, ultimately, I think that's why the decision that was made occurred. But Pie genuinely knocked my socks off with how they sang here. I was like, okay, oh my god, what the fuck? That's coming out of Pie?
I was like, when Pie was singing, I was like, oh, Pie is Jan now. Pie is the Jan.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Pie trying to come in trying to come in with what she was like when Jan was sitting there just hitting those high notes and stuff. Girl, I was like, oh, that's what we're doing, Pie. I was like, some are landing, some are not, but at the same time, I'm like,
good enough.
you're giving me more Broadway than anybody else as of right now.
I get like embodying Broadway, but it just came across as really shrieky to me and shrill, just not appeasing to my ears at all. So that was for me. And I rewatched it because I'm like, did I miss something? And like on my second viewing today, I was like, I do not like this at all.
That's just, I mean, and that's just a personal taste thing. But
No,
because I was like, I will 100% agree. I was like, when Pie went up and did that part, I was like, oh, Pie won this. I was like, oh, Pie won this. I was like, done. I was like, very much done.
It was never on my radar. It was never on my radar that Pie was winning.
I was like, yeah. I was like, Pie's winning this. Not to mention the fact it also makes sense because you got this alliance between Pie and Asia, and you almost have to now justify the fact that they're in a alliance with each other because Pie usually does well, but Pie hasn't won anything yet. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, this is going to be Pie's challenge win. So this way they'll both have a challenge win. They'll kind of be on the same level now. I get that. This makes sense. The person that I said Drac likes to get with girls and find a girl that they are just really obsessed with for some reason and will let them get away with murder. And I love her to death. But this episode, it was Asia. Because I've seen this same chest pattern of makeup on her for every single outfit she's worn since she's done it. The makeup styling has been sickening, but it's basically been the same look in different colors. No lie, so has Shaharia's. But no lie, Aurora ain't changed her face either. Pie is really the only person that's really flexing with the makeup up there. But this is just very much like I said, I felt like that if this was a episode where people were judged off of teams, some girls are going to get real lucky. Because I could see a winning team, and I could see some girls that could possibly have been in the bottom if they would have been judged individually. And I would say that I would have thought either Aurora or Asia could have easily been in the bottom if this was judged individually. Because they kind of just like, I think the thing for me is Asia very much disappeared. But for me, Aurora didn't disappear because she was so off and it was so apparent that it got awkward at some points where everyone is doing one move and they look over to her and she's like, oh, wait, I'm supposed to do it too. I'm like, wait, that's a lot. I'm like, come on now. Like, it made me feel like she forgot stuff. And so I was just kind of, I was not the happiest with it. I love Jaharia's part in it. I felt like that I wish I could have saw a little bit more from Jaharia actively throughout the performance. And like other than when it got to her part, because it was very much one of those where like she was in the group and everything, but she didn't come on until it was her turn. You know what I mean? And I kind of wanted to see her on from the beginning. But yeah, me personally, I thought that Pie took this, but I also will say as well too, I love Pie's makeup. I've loved Pie's makeup for a while. Just the styling of how they do it is so graphic and detailed. Like even how they did their makeup now, but almost as like a Kiss inspiration. So like the black that's usually around the head or whatever is more spiked. And like, I was like, I'm really digging Pie's mug. Like, okay. I was like, I put it this way. After this episode, I very clearly see who if there's going to be a top 4 finale, who they'll be. Like, I very clearly see it. And at first, I didn't have Pie up there, but now I think I might.
Yeah, I could see it for sure. And I do want to say, like, while I really did not like Pie's singing, I did like that Pie took a lot of like risks and gave effort, because I felt like like I said, Asia and Aurora, it didn't feel like they were putting in as much effort, and so they faded. So if they did judge this, if this was the bottom team, yeah, I probably would have expected to see Asia and Aurora as the bottom two.
Yeah, because they were
And-
keeping background singers. Or my
Mhm.
background singers.
This was the one thing that did strike me odd about this episode. Why was it specifically these teams? Because it's a team with 3 winners, being Pi, Asia, and Aurora, and then Jaharia, who's been really consistently good.
Well, this is
And
Pai's
then-
first win, though. Like, it was
It-
just
it-
2
it-
winners.
Well, that's fair, yeah. But it's been someone who's been very highly featured in Pi, where they've always been like, we really love your looks, we love your like style. And then we have Gray Matter, who's a hunt actor, and you would not expect to do theater at all. You
Mhm.
have Yuri, who's been low twice and only high once. You have Auntie, who has been consistently high. And then you have Vivi, who they've kind of been ignoring and tried to get rid of last episode if Majesty didn't quit.
Right.
So just from the team breakdown and then seeing these performances, I was like, yeah, cool. Okay, we know exactly what's probably about to happen here. It's really telegraphed. But, I mean, it doesn't... The end result of this doesn't surprise me. The method that they tried to do is really weird.
It was like going through a labyrinth. Like, why do we have to go through that maze?
Yeah, are we good to just like jump to what happens?
So, sorry, you're talking about what part?
How results
Like
are done.
placements and stuff.
Okay. Well, first I wanted to, can I quickly
Yeah.
touch on some things said during the judging first before we get our results?
Go
Sorry.
for it.
Yeah, some things that stood out to me. So let me go ahead and remove this from the stage. We had all of them standing there, and I thought it was really funny when it got to Pi, and she was like, "Hi" to Alaska, and Alaska just didn't acknowledge it, and Vivi like gives her like this look, which was probably moment number 3 from Vivi that I liked. But this is also where we find out that Pi is taking a lot of credit for the leadership in the group. And I see where they're coming from, like especially like since Jaharia said earlier in the episode that Pi kind of kept them on track. But I do like, for me, it seemed more like Jaharia was the leader. Did it not seem that way to you all?
It seemed more like Jahari as what?
The leader.
Yes, but sadly
Yes.
enough, Jahari is a type B personality bitch, and this isn't the competition for girls like that.
I guess so.
I love her to death, but she did that to herself.
Yep. And they even asked her about that, but sorry, Jack.
She very much, and I think I relate to this in a lot of ways, she is someone who is willing to set up all the spotlights for people to shine, and
And stand in the dark.
Pi is someone who is willing to stand in that spotlight. And I think we are going to hear about this next episode, and Jahari is going to call Pi out on their shit of like, why the fuck did you undercut me?
I will say this though. I feel like that because I can see how this is flowing. Number one, we got possibly a hint about something. So who knows if everything's gonna switch up? But if things don't switch up and we keep going the way things are going, if Jaharia doesn't win next episode, Jaharia will be going home.
Yeah.
That's what that's giving. Because as of right now, they're like, you're the star. We know you're the star. We need you to know that you're the star. Are you the star? Well, I don't know. Girl, if you're not the star, then we're not going to crown you. Because it's like, if you can't figure it out at this point, we're not waiting for a catharsis to happen at some point. We need them to already be ready. And like, I will agree and disagree with what Pi said in relation to when they talked to Pi and they asked Pi if Pi was the leader and everything. Pi said that one, they felt they were the leader because they felt like they held people together and stuff. And two, they also felt like that the Boulets like when the leader acknowledges the fact that they are the leader. And I will agree with the second one and not the first one because I feel like Jaharia was more of the leader. But
Right.
I will say that is, yeah, it's like they want you to know that you're the shit, period. There shouldn't be a question about it, or you thinking, you know what I mean? And so when they came up and they made the when they made the deliberation and stuff, and they let Jaharia know all of this, and then they went to Pi and asked who the leader was and stuff like that, and then Pi said herself, that was Jaharia's moment. That was a test. That was a whole test, because we already know that these hosts have closed circuit cameras and stuff everywhere, watching everything. They watch the rehearsals. They know who the leader was of the group and who wasn't. There's a reason why the only person they asked who the leader was Pi. They could have asked anybody else that question randomly. They could have asked Jaharia who the leader was, because Jaharia was the first person they went to. But they were like, but Pi was the last person they went to, and they asked Pi who the leader was. They already knew that. So it's one of those situations where they did that because they were like, we think Jaharia probably took more of the lead. Let's see what happens. And Pi was like, yeah, I was the lead, because they went to her specific. They didn't even ask her. They didn't even ask her if she was the leader. They told her she was. They were like, Pi, you seem to be the person that was taking the leader role. And Pi said, I'll agree. Yeah, I was.
I wonder.
And Jaharia sat there and was like, girl, I can't believe you said that. I'm like, why did you say it?
Right. I wonder if that was a tiebreaker on who they were going to give the win to, is whoever took.
It probably was.
I said that. I was like, if Jaharia would have spoke up and said, no, girl, I'm like, I know you did this and this, but girl, I choreographed this all. I did all the blocking. I did not, like, no, girl, I was the leader.
Yeah.
Or made some kind of influence, or she would have went to the Boulet and said, just to be honest with you, I feel like that I was the leader because I did da. They would have gave it to Jaharia straight out.
If she had jumped on the opportunity to stand up, she wins the episode. She didn't. Pi jumped into it. Pi won it.
Like,
as simple as that.
She said, she was like, you need to start putting these girls under the bus instead of trying to help them drive it.
I do also think potentially the prize this episode might have also influenced who won. Just like a slight tip a little bit, because it is a lot easier to get a girl from Philadelphia down to New York for one night versus someone from Kansas City.
There's direct flights.
There are direct flights, but it's a lot. Pi can literally drive. I have done the drive from Philadelphia to New York City before. It's maybe 2.5 hours.
I've done the flight from Kansas City. Sorry.
But I mean, it's something. I think the point of mentioning the leader is also very important. I think you are dead on the money, Eve. But then we have the others.
We do have the others. So one of my favorite critiques was when Alaska was talking to Auntie about her being the old rat, and she was like, senility had crept in.
And on this rat, honey, I was like, damn, why did she do that? She should have played it like, just start saying stuff. I don't know what to like. If she could have, that would have been awesome, because it was very like, I'm old. You were like, oh, okay.
I'm old. Like,
Phoebe was too fast and she was too slow.
Yeah.
And well, Jack asks her in this moment, do you think the group threw you off? And actually, Auntie is very hesitant to throw anybody under the bus, which I kind of respected. But in confessional, she's like, yeah, they're all to blame. And I'm like, oh my God.
Because
responsibility.
Because to be completely honest with you, if you were basically, because this is supposed to be a Broadway challenge and part of their acting and performance is taken into account, regardless of how they sound as singing, given the fact how they kind of gave Aurora a little bit of a pass. I feel like that, like, one, I do think it pushed the storyline further for getting Vivi out of them specifically saying, you think, like, them specifically bringing up and saying Vivi was off, she threw the beat off, Not saying the whole group, just Vivi. But I think they saw this as Auntie's win. Like, I would honestly say,
for sure,
if Auntie hadn't forgotten her words, they probably would have gave this to her.
I think so.
I probably would have, because her characterization and everything was it was spot on for someone doing like some type of musical theater. It was a full realized character, down from the face to the way that she carried her body to the act, to like the way that she spoke, and like, you know, it was very, very clean. And so I know that I was like, Auntie's not going home. I know this for 150% fact. They're not finna send her home.
Mm-hmm. Which I want to talk about that more later when we talk about the decisions people were making.
I was like, they're not finna send her home. But the way they're about to piss her off, woo, she is going to be hotter than a firecracker dipped in fish grease next episode. I can tell you that now.
For sure. The cute moment number 4 from Vivi comes up at this moment. She says, I know my dancing was offbeat, but isn't this off Broadway?
I love that so much.
I was like, it's time for you to go. I'm sorry.
How dare you?
I said, no. I said, where are my keys? Warm up the bus. Warm up the bus.
Not warm up the bus.
Okay, we do get our top group, and it is the Snake Pit with Asia, Aurora, Jaharia, and Pi. And then we find out that the winner overall is Pi.
Yay! I mean, kind of already discussed all the reasons, but from a very personal sense, my draft is now doing way fucking better.
Yep. Meanwhile, Eve and I are suffering this week because we have, 3 of the 4 people in the bottom group are from Team Eve and David. That's Anti-Heroine, Gray, Vivi, and Yuri, Rat House Fever. They are the bottom group. And this is where we find out the big twist that I know we are just chomping at the bit to talk about. And now is the time. We find out that the winning team will get to pick the 2 people up for extermination. And immediately I was like, oh, hell no, this twist sucks, because I saw where this could go.
I did too.
And where it should go.
In it, I knew possibly that I was going to have somebody in the bottom anyway because of what happened and the way they were kind of setting stuff up, especially with there being a top team and a bottom team. I was like, oh, well, then my bottom 2 I called out of the bottom team is like, that's them. But the fact that they didn't even get a chance to deliberate with them, they didn't get a chance to plead their case at all. They said, y'all got to go in the back by yourselves. I said,
yeah.
God.
Oh my God. What?
I was like, bitch, we can't see anybody trying to make any like last minute deals or anything. Or like, okay, bitch, if you save me, I won't put you up for. I was like, what? It started off being the best part of the entire episode.
Agreed.
It turned into the worst.
Well, for me, it was like the best in like the most bittersweet way, because they break off into 2 groups of 2 for whatever reason, and we see Asia and Pi conspiring against Auntie, and they're like, this is our opportunity. We wanted to get Auntie out. Here's how we do it. We need to make sure Auntie is in the bottom. And the whole time that they're doing this, I'm like, you guys, all you're doing, if you're insisting Auntie's in the bottom, all you're doing is ensuring whoever's next to her is the person that goes. Auntie's not going. Auntie is not going, no matter what. And then the other group,
I agree. I was like, I feel like this was the I can't even keep track of how many bad decisions got made in this episode. But this was a badass decision. I was like, you're literally going to do nothing but piss her off.
Mm-hmm.
I actually do think there is one way that maybe Anti-Heroine does go home. And I think if Anti-Heroine is against Gray, I think it genuinely does come down to the lip sync. Because
Did
Gray...
they explain that part beforehand? Because
they didn't know it was a lip sync. They didn't know the elimination was a lip sync. But I didn't already. They didn't
know, but they did know the song in advance, so they probably knew.
Well, it wasn't revealed, I guess I would say. So it's also for me still one of those kind of situations where I'm in my mind going, 9 times out of 10, because this is a performance challenge, it's going to be a performance based. It can easily be a performance based Extermination. They could easily do like they did last season with Jarvis and JK and make it a lip sync. And if that's the case, Angie's won all the performance challenges. Why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would you do that? The girl lip synced to Slater as a clown in a box and bodied everybody. Like, are you serious? I was like, I was like, that's not the smartest move. And you guys are holding a lot on the fact that technically you can put her down there because technically she did bad. She knows that's an excuse. Everybody will know that's an excuse. You know what I mean? Like, you can't hold it on that next week when she goes, why'd you put me in the bottom? Well, girl, you got the worst critiques. You know, damn girl. Okay. It's one of those where I see Angie coming back in a big way after this, and the girls are going to be scared because I'm like, y'all set that bomb. Y'all set that time bomb. I'm waiting for it to go off now.
Yeah, she seems like somebody you don't want to mess with because she will always bring out the wrath. Like, even if it is justifiable, it doesn't matter. There's no justification for her. But we do see the other duo of Aurora and Jaharia, and they seem really focused in on Gray and wanting to get Gray out. So at this point, I'm losing my mind because I'm like, crap, Gray is going home because it's going to be Auntie and Gray. That's the logical decision. If they want to get out a big person, put those two in there. That way they're forced to send home a front runner of some sort. And
I thought that would be such a gag. I was like, oh, if that happens... I was like, if that happens, number one, whoever goes home automatically gets a Titan season 2 spot, like, period. But at the same time, I'm like, that could be insane. I was like, that would be good TV. I would want to see that, even if it meant that possibly Angie would go home. I'd still want to see that. It wouldn't seem so predictable, like we already know out of the two who's finna go home kind of a thing. You know, I was like, that could be tight. And I was very surprised that out of nowhere, Aurora and Jaharia were fixated on Gray out of the other people that were there because Yuri's actually been in the bottom. And Yuri did well just like Gray did. So I could understand them being like, well, we're trying to target somebody that did great in the challenge and try to like get someone out. But like, they never really had the mindset going throughout the competition of we want to get rid of the strong people whenever we can get a chance to. You know what I mean? So it just seemed weird that out of nowhere they were just adamant on doing it this episode. And then, of course, 360'd in like an hour. So I was like, really? I would have thought you guys would have said Yuri and Auntie instead of Gray. But I'm like, I'm interested to see Gray versus Auntie. We'll see what goes on. And like, they mentioned Yuri for half of a whole second. Like, I think separately and together. Like, they went and was like, well, what about Yuri? No, we're not thinking about Yuri. Yuri, we know she's not going to do, we're not talking about her at all, period. Keep going. Who's next? Like, she wasn't in any way, not Yuri, I'm sorry, taking all this back. Vivi, that's what I meant to say. They were saying that about Vivi. I was like, they didn't in any way factor Vivi into their thought process of someone being into the bottom.
Yeah. I think Pi did a little bit near the end, but it almost sounded like, to me as a viewer, it sounded almost obligatory. Like, oh, we have to mention Vivi
because she technically did the worst out of everybody.
I honestly felt watching this, 0% anybody was considering voting for Vivi. 0%.
Vivi was not a factor in their minds at all. Even if they were like, well, if we can't pick these two people, let's have a backup person. They would have picked Yuri over Vivi. That's why I'm like, not to mention, to be honest, I did find it a little bit sickening that Jaharia did sit up there and like actively admit, no, it's actually kind of sickening if we end up keeping somebody around that we know is in competition, so that way they can kind of be like a shield for us or whatever.
Right.
I was like, we've seen that happen in reality shows a lot, but a lot of times it doesn't get acknowledged by the people doing it. That's actively why they're doing it. And I kind of like that Jaharia was felt like, no, let's keep her. Let's keep her. That way we know that, we can just get rid of her later. I'm like, that's actually kind of sickening. I was like, if y'all do that, that's actually going to be kind of sickening.
You have any thoughts, Jack, before we go back to the stage?
I will say it is interesting that Yuri was not mentioned at all, at least from what we saw. I genuinely do not remember Yuri being brought up as a target ever. there were essentially two sets of targets. It was no matter what, we can say Auntie because it's easy. And she fucked up and she's also a front runner. So we can just say her name and it's easy and it's simple. But do we send her against Gray, who's a threat, or do we send them against Vivi, who fucked up? And in their minds, they're probably like, and we'll go home if we send Vivi in. It is
Right.
It is 100% Vivi goes home. If it is Gray Matter versus Auntie, I don't think they knew who would go home.
Yep.
Because Gray very much listened to the Boulets. He got amazing critiques. They knew what they were doing. Auntie already got a win, but definitely fucked up this episode and could be an easy target. So it literally would be the Boulets figuring it out. But I do want to mention that Jaharia specifically said, and this is the part that I think, unfortunately, this is where kind of production meddling makes a little bit of sense. They go, hey, but I don't want to send both in, and then both of them are spared, and that's how it goes. Which, unfortunately, I think was a consideration that at least they somewhat took into it, where it was like, if we send Auntie and Gray down and they don't want to get rid of either of them, after the lip sync, they'll be like, neither of you are exterminated. Congratulations, you did it. I think they would have still exterminated someone in that case. But I think something else happened that maybe changed their minds.
I do too. So let's first get to the part where they all go back onto the stage, and then they ask for the decision on who they're voting for, and they go to Jaharia, and we first find out Auntie's one of them, and then she says Vivi. And so I thought she was the representative for the group and just telling them what they decided, but no, apparently everybody gets their own individual vote, and they all say the same thing, Auntie and Vivi. And personally, I'm happy about this because if there's one person I wanted to lose out of the three people in consideration, it is Vivi. So I wanted Vivi to be there. What I am not happy about, I'm very unhappy about, is there is a piece that is missing in this puzzle. It was settled on in the boudoir that it's going to be Auntie and Gray. That's what we saw. That was the storytelling. You cannot take the storytelling of it is Auntie and Gray, go out on the stage, and then give us it's Auntie and Vivi. We're missing a piece. We're missing a piece that either they changed their minds in the boudoir or you changed their minds. And I'm inclined to believe, because we didn't see anything, that there was production strongly encouraging people not to vote that way. Because I think they were panicking. They were like, wow, this is the worst case scenario. This is not how we wanted this twist to turn out. And I really do think they strong-armed this group and took away their choice and told them who they were supposed to vote for. I don't know what you all think.
I agree. But for me, I would say this. I would say I don't feel like that they should probably strong-arm the whole group. I think they just needed to strong-arm one person.
And that was the person going first.
They did give everyone a lineup order of them walking back out into the boudoir. Walking out into the main stage, so they already knew who they could put first up in the lineup. And at the same time, with the person at the beginning of the lineup changing everyone's vote on stage in front of everyone, it put the pressure on the other three people to be like, well, if you guys say someone different now, then we all look like we were just back there not knowing what the hell we were doing. It made like you saw Pi physically look at her when she said Vivi and be like, huh? And then be like, well, crap, now we have to say her too. Otherwise it would look more targeted for us on top of that anyway. You know what I mean? Like it was a weird, messy situation where I was like, this is not adding up. If 2 + 2 is 4 and 4 + 4 is 8, then what the hell is this?
Right.
Yeah. There was a split in the boudoir of Pi and Asia coming together and saying, like, look, we are gonna push Auntie. And there was also Aurora and Jaharia being like, we are gonna push Gray.
That didn't make sense to me either. Those two were the main ones when they did the confessionals of them saying who they picked that both went, well, we kind of chickened out. You chickened out on the person you wanted?
Right.
You folded on your choice?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
They're not going to care because they got on, like, you're still saying auntie. That's all they want anyway. So I'm just kind of like that. It was so odd.
I am not going to directly say there was production meddling, but I do think there was something that happened. And I think Aurora directly blamed it on alcohol and was like, I think we got a little bit too fun in the boudoir, and like we were gonna make a big move, and no, it didn't make sense.
On alcohol.
The decision on stage changes, and I think based on Pai's reaction, it did genuinely change in the moment from, oh, we are putting Auntie and Gray down to, oh, we are putting Auntie and Vivi down. Mm-hmm. Because Pai and Asia would only be able to tie it, and then at that point, the Boulets probably break the tie to send Vivi down anyway.
Yeah, so we do get our bottom two. It is Anti-Heroine and Vivi the Force for whatever reason. But we find out that they're going to be lip-syncing for the Extermination Challenge to Waiting by Dolly. So, and did they even mention that it was Dolly on the show?
Which is so weird. Why are you not mentioning your winner's song? It doesn't make sense. They never mention it by name. They never bring it up. Honestly, I thought
they didn't even really announce it well. They were like, and you all are going to have to lip sync for your life right now.
For your life.
I'm like,
music starts. No credit in the subtitles, like nothing.
No good luck.
The only way I figured out what the song was by looking at the end credits.
Yeah, I saw it on Wikipedia. So that's how I found it.
It was
so strange.
It was stylized so weird. But also at the same time, like I said, when I realized what the extermination was, and they said all of the other contestants can go to the back of the stage, I said, it's a lip sync. It's over. It's over for Vivi. It is so over. Auntie is going to come back next week with a force and a vengeance hotter than diarrhea. She is going to murder them girls. I promise you. If you in any way thought that you could have an alliance with her, it will never happen. It is now Auntie Heroine versus the world. It's Dragula, Auntie Heroine versus the world, and I am here for it. I am here for it. Ooh, I'm here for it.
Yep.
I will honestly say, the minute that Aurora said Auntie and Vivi, I was like, and Vivi is done. Yep. Literally, they are never going to send Auntie home over Vivi.
Yep, I immediately put 0 points next to her name in our draft score sheet.
It didn't matter. Whatever Vivi did, they tried to get rid of her last week, and the only reason they didn't is because Majesty left the game.
Right.
So why would they keep someone around that they tried to get rid of and that they were willing to sacrifice for someone they thought was a front runner before? No matter what Vivi did, unfortunately, it was over the minute her name was said.
Yeah.
True. And even if it wasn't over by then, this lip sync definitely did her in, because Vivi felt, I don't know, it almost felt like she was not trying.
I was
shocked.
Going home. She just was going right the hell home. She said, bye, y'all.
She knew she was done.
Jaharia called it out. She was like complimenting Auntie, and she's like, and Vivi is there.
And Vivi is also here.
But didn't Asia say, like, oh, it's so close, I don't know who it's going to be? And I'm like, really?
No, it was gagging me a little bit, because at the beginning of the lip sync, it looked like she was about to do a Jenny Lemon or something, just walk off or be like, I can't do this, and leave. Because like they kept, like, she was kind of lip syncing, but not really like lip syncing out. She was kind of doing it to herself, almost like she was talking to herself. And then they cut to Drac and Swan, and they're both like, what's going on? What's happening?
Oh shit. Okay.
I'm like, girl, is she about to walk off? This is gonna be crazy.
Can you all imagine if they had let all 8 of them go back to the boudoir and actually strategize with each other and plead their case? That would have been so much better, I think.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen a little bit of a report back and forth between them. But I will say, in the moment of doing it, I do feel it probably is more dramatic. They just don't know nothing about what's going to happen.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, they just come out and their face just decided. They can do nothing about it. Like, I feel like that's kind of the twist for me that I'm very okay with it being a Dragula type situation. Like, that's why I was like, this had potential. It had potential at the beginning. It really did.
In my mind, I don't see why this twist existed. Like, initially, yes, I'm with you. Up until the moment that they basically told Aurora, you need to save Vivi. Like, the moment that happened, I think if they had said Auntie Heroine and Yuri, they would have let it go through. Like, genuinely, unfortunately, and I love Yuri, they would throw Yuri under the bus here. I think it was directly because they said Auntie Heroine and Gray Matter. That's why they intervened.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are going to make the bottom 2 anyway, just judge it yourself. Yep. Let us have a normal boudoir. Don't introduce some dumb twist when we know what's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, surprising no one, we know what happens.
Yes. So we do have Vivi join the ranks of the very few people. I think it might be just Vivi.
It's just 2.
And Jarvis, who get exterminated in front of everybody, which is kind of like not the best way to go. So yes, Vivi has been exterminated. And they really draw out the death scene. Like, we just see a lot of meandering and walking around behind the stage. And I'm like, when are we going to get to the death part? Like, did it feel really long to you all too?
The death was anticlimactic as hell.
Yeah.
And the timing was off. Because they turned it around and they made it seem like the death was right after they told her to leave the stage. Like, she's leaving the stage and there's people watching her from behind the wings. I'm like, wait, Drac and Swan are the one that killed them. They're still on stage with everybody else. How they're not behind the stage watching her walk off stage. I was like, this timing is horrible.
Just,
and the way
I guess
stuck a needle in her and then like left her in the stairwell. I was like,
it seemed like they already killed her and then they killed her more.
Yeah, it was strange.
I thought they should have killed her in the alley because she's a rat.
I'm trying to think, because I mean this whole extermination confused me. Hit her with the head over the hammer, sure. What the fuck was the syringe for? Like, maybe
it had rat poison in it.
Okay, if it had rat poison in it, then that's beautiful. But
they showed the rat poison, so I was expecting them to feed it to her, and then they hit her over the head, and I'm like, wait, I thought you were gonna. Oh, they're syringing it.
I thought it was gonna be like urban legend, and like, you know what I mean, like
with
they're gonna pull her to a bathroom stall, they like force it in her mouth or something like that.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like,
I love that movie.
I do feel like that some of the exterminations this season have been a little bit anticlimactic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially given some of the other ones that we've had before. Like, you had Erica Clash freaking look. The only extermination ever in Dragula history that has ever made me cry was when Erica Clash got exterminated. I cried so hard because I was like, I felt for that girl. And also, they had a crazy child. She got killed like with a freaking voodoo doll in an elevator. Like, they had some actual smart, like they're running out of stuff to do right now. And I'm like, even the intros have had a downgrade. Mm-hmm. The intros were like full stories or like little mini music videos and shit for like the last couple of seasons. Now it's literally just back to that same house with them in 2 chairs with pumpkins around them, saying about 15 puns in an intro, and then it's just going into the title screen. And I'm
okay
like,
with it though, because those short little movies, I was like, oh, these are always boring to me.
I don't know. Some of them I thought were interesting with the way that they kind of hinted as to what the challenge was going to be, as opposed to them being like, we're going to be punny about it. Like Like it's kind of like, I don't know. They still gotta, that $100,000 is courtesy of them, so they gotta cut corners wherever they can.
Oh my god.
Let's get to the draft update. Eve, oh how the mighty have fallen. Remember when we were the top 2 on the draft? Things have changed.
Great.
Yeah. So Brandon is forever in 6th place since Brandon lost his team first. 5th place is Brooke with 21 points. 4th place is me with 25 points. 3rd place is Eve with 27 points. So we've been passed by Logan, who's in 2nd place with 32.5 points, which means our new leader is Jack with 34 points.
I chose the right team this episode. It is Pie and Aurora.
Yeah.
So I definitely benefited from this challenge being judged in teams.
Pie and Aurora.
Yep, you got 9 points.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm looking at my current positioning in terms of overall teams. I'm in a good spot. I don't think Aurora will be slaughtered immediately, and I think Pie is a good shot at the end game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not a win, but a good shot at the end game. I want them to win.
I still think Asia, Auntie, and Gray are the main front runners for the show.
Yeah.
And those are 3 different people. It's Logan, me, and Eve. So we'll see. We'll see if we can come for you. Because
I see Auntie getting a couple more wins. I see Auntie getting another 1 or 2 wins. I see it. Especially because this is also something that I thought of too. And this is something that I was like, if Jaharia doesn't win next week, they're sending Jaharia home. Because we've also had a good amount of performance-based challenges with it just being like with the first 4 or 5 episodes of the season. So I'm like, we're probably going to start getting back more into more look-based episodes now. Mm-hmm. And I love Jaharia to death, but Jaharia's looks do fall like, they seem like they do fall all within this same almost like white clown with green blush field. They all kind of fall in there.
I like her looks.
Huh?
I like her looks.
I like her looks too. I do think that they're very consistently the same. I don't think that she's a chameleon. I feel like when Jaharia goes out there, you know it's Jaharia.
That's true, but they all have kind of like signature stuff. Like you get the same silhouette, same hair from Auntie too, and it's great. I like that. But they all just take it and adapt it to whatever the challenge is, and it works.
I think for me, it comes down to the level of execution when it comes to concept. I think like the other contestants the good amount of the other contestants that are left are very strong concept heavy pushing entertainers when it comes to their looks and stuff. Like it's very concept down. And I feel like Jaharia's concepts sometimes have been a little bit loose. Like even when it came down to the doll challenge, like that was very kind of sort of a doll, but really it wasn't a doll. You know what I mean? Like the toy challenge, she was a person that did a clown just like everybody, like a couple other people did. She hasn't gotten a lot of times where I think the doll challenge was one where
not you talking about the same challenge but naming it 2 different things.
No, she did
the doll and the toy.
No, that's the downside, is the fact, like I said, that she always looks like a clown. You got confused. No, the first episode where they had to do
no, that
I think it was like
the first one they did.
Now I'm trying to back in my mind.
She was like the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh yeah, no, she was the creature from the Black Lagoon. No, you are confusing 2 different challenges.
It was the one where they had to do the holidays.
Yeah, she was a birthday.
She came out like a clown.
Okay. So I was just going by you saying the toy challenge and then you talking about the doll challenge. And
I meant the doll challenge and the holiday.
Okay, that makes more
sense.
But
yeah, it's one of those where I felt like that she hasn't had a lot of times where they've just been like, oh my God, your concept just blew this out of the water. Like even with her creature from the Blue Lagoon look, it was nice.
I liked it. It's Black Lagoon. Blue Lagoon's a different movie.
I said the Black Lagoon.
Rewind the tapes.
You definitely said blue.
Don't do me. I did not say Blue Lagoon. I said Black Lagoon.
I love you, Eve, but no, you definitely said blue.
I did not say Blue Lagoon. Okay, it's whatever.
This is going to be the new Straight Heaven, if you all even know what that is. But I'll show you.
Yeah, but even with that concept, it was very much like she was in a printed bodysuit that you could have got, possibly from like Amazon, and then like the prosthetics were nice, but other than that, it wasn't a lot pushing the concept of what she's doing forward. So I feel like when it comes to some of these next challenges, if the next one is going to be like another horror-based challenge or something, and she does something that still falls into that line of the white face, green makeup, clownish type aesthetic, they're going to automatically clock her on it and be like, okay, we've kind of been seeing this a lot from you, I hope that that's not what happens, but I feel like that they set up certain things in storylines to prove a point. And I think for them specifically saying during the runway and everything on this episode, we want to see more of you taking leadership action, and then her actively not doing it has already put in the back of their mind, okay, if you don't wow us next week, we can go ahead and let you go.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so I hope that doesn't happen. I will be prepared if it does.
Mm. Well, speaking of looks, we are going to talk a little bit about the looks for this episode. Honestly, I think it's going to be very quick, but you can check that out and look over here. We will be releasing that a little bit later after this episode drops. So please check that out when it comes out. And the best way to find out when it comes out is to subscribe to the channel. If you're not already subscribed, do that. Please like, share, comment. You can even hit the bell, and that will send you notifications when our episodes drop. If you're interested in listening to just the podcast version, which is what I usually do, you can find our podcast links in the description below. You can also find links to our social medias. They've been scrolling below here. They're not showing up right now, as I say that, of course, but they will be back in a second. But also you can go to launagcreations.etsy.com and you can get some cup merch there. And we have other merch too. We have like socks and water bottles and a bunch of cool things. But we are going to get out of here. So we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.